YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to Bananas Epic Gaming. And today on Bananas Epic Gaming, we are doing another episode of CageTalk. And this episode of CageTalk is going to be a re-ranking video. And the last time we ranked this series, we did the entire universe. And if you haven't guessed, it is the Vampire Diaries, the originals, and legacies. So we're going to be doing a re-ranking of the Vampire Diaries and the originals, and when Legacies eventually ends, we'll be doing a ranking of that. But this episode, we're going to be ranking the Vampire Diaries, all seasons, from worst to the best. And Legacies will be the next one. So please be sure to smash that like button, tap the little bell on that YouTube app so you never miss an upload. And let's get into it. Coming in 8th place is going to be The Vampire Diaries, Season 8, the final season. So this season for me is the worst because I didn't really care about the villains, and Atlantis still was gone. She was gone up until the last episode. Is when we saw her again. This season is like split up into 4 different chapters. Chapter 1 is the Siren chapter. It begins in the first episode of the season, where Damon and Enzo are enslaved by Civil, who is a Siren, who reveals she harvests souls for the devil, who's like one of the main bad guys this season, along with her sister, Celine. Civil destroys Damon's good qualities, which leads him to making a deal with Cade, aka the devil, for him and Stefan to take the Siren's place as his servants to stay out of hell for eternity. Stefan agrees, turning into a Ripper, and corrupts innocent souls to be damned in hell. And that's the first chapter. The second chapter is the Bell Tower chapter, and Silver reveals that she's gonna retrieve 3 parts of Mystic Falls, the Founder's Bell, before her sister could use them to kill her. And they're gonna ring the bell to let the Hellfire come over and take over Mystic Falls. The third chapter is the one with Kai and the devil. Kai will get a hell, and he'll help them kill Cade with bone daggers. When Alaric confronts Kai about the death of Joe and tries to kill him, Kai tells them that he is willing to wake up Elena. So that is kind of how we get Elena back. It's been a long time since I've seen this, so I'm just trying to remember everything. And the final chapter is the aftermath and the destruction of Cade's destruction. When Kelly crashed Stephanie and Caroline's wedding before her death, she finally confessed that Catherine has returned once again. So Catherine was the one pulling the strings. And they obviously defeat Catherine, and Stefan dies with Catherine by the Hellfire. And Bonnie pushes back the Hellfire and is holding it off with the ancestors in the background, and Enzo helping her because she's not strong enough. But Bonnie is one of the strongest witches, I think, that we've seen. Not the strongest witch, but one of the strongest witches. All in all, season 8 of the Vampire Diaries, I think it could have been better. There are some really good moments and some really bad moments, and for me, I loved when Nina Dobrev came back. That was amazing. And then the last few minutes is what everybody does with their lives, and we eventually see that Joe is watching over, or was watching over, Rick and Josie and Lizzie. And Klaus donated money to the Salvatore School, which is where Legacies takes place. All in all, it's an okay season, but I really don't care for it that much. Now on to the next season. Coming in 7th place is going to be the Vampire Diaries Season 7. So going forward, I'm going to try not to spoil that much on the series. So the season starts off like most seasons. They have 4 chapters, and chapter 1 is episode 1 through 5, and it's the Heretics chapter. The Heretics are a family living in Mystic Falls, kill a few locals, prompting Stefan and the gang to compel the townspeople to leave, allowing the Heretics to feed on the intruders in the town. Damon and Bonnie decide to fight back and kill one of Lily's heretics, causing attacks to both Mystic Falls gang and the heretics for the control of the town. Alaric, in the meantime, wants to use the mysterious Phoenix Stone to bring back his dead fiancée Joe, but Lily wants the stone for herself to bring back her vampire lover Julian. In the chapter 1, obviously the antagonists are Lily, Salvatore, and the heretics. We fast forward to chapter 2, and that is the Julian chapter. The vampire lover known as Julian is revived by the Phoenix Stone and is trying to get back to normal life with living with his heretic family, and Stefan, who wants Julian dead for killing his unborn child from heretic Valerie way back in the day before Stefan was a vampire. Teams up with Damon to kill Julian. Stefan does. Julian links to Lily's life for protection. Lily teams with her sons and heretics and tries to kill herself to kill Julian while linked. However, Mary Louise, a heretic, unlinks them, so Julian survived while Lily died. Blaming her sons for her death, Julian uses the Phoenix sword to kill Damon before Stefan is killed by Nora for revenge, trapping their souls inside the Phoenix Stone, constantly reliving their own unique hell. Chapter 3 is the Reina chapter. Reina Cruz is the vampire huntress, spelled by shamans to go after anybody who has the mark of the Phoenix sword and trap them in the stone and make them relive their own personal hell. Stefan kills Julian. Enzo found Reina in the armory, I believe it was, but she escaped, killing Bill and stabbing Stefan, forcing him to run so she could not find him anywhere. Caroline gives birth to the twins, Lizzie and Joe, and moves to Dallas with Lark. As Rand escapes with Matt's help after 3 years, she tracks down Stefan with her sword, despite Damon being seconds away of having the mark transferred onto himself. A dying Mary Louise, with the help of Noah, siphoned the Phoenix sword, destroying it and the stone and themselves, which releases the imprisoned souls into other people's bodies. Chapter 4 is the Vault chapter. And now, after the destruction of the Phoenix Sword, all the imprisoned vampires, including Stefan, are sent into random corpses of humans and vampires. After saving Stefan, Bonnie's life is endangered from the pills her boyfriend Enzo gave her to hide her from the armory. So they need to unlock the vault. Damon makes a deal to kill all the extinct vampires. Serena will transfer her last life to Bonnie after Bonnie becomes the new huntress. Damon tries to fix the vampires' killing urges by venturing into the army's vault to destroy the everlasting freeing her of the urge to kill her friends. Despite his heroics, Damon falls victim to the evil monster in the vault, which we later to known as Sybil. We learn to see Sybil. Along with Enzo, trying to help Damon escape and rescue Damon, they fall victim to Sybil. After months, the gang discovers that Damon and Enzo have escaped the vault and have killed dozens of people due to the effects of Sybil has on them. Now, it has been a while since I've seen this season 2, but from what I remember from this season was decently good from my memory. I liked it, but not as much as I liked the other seasons. This is like the first season without Elena, because Elena gets put in the Sleeping Beauty spell, and I was not for that, because I love Nina Dobrev, and that's why I love season 7 and 8 are my least favorite. All in all, the Vampire Diaries season 7 has some really good episodes overall, and it's worth it. I know I didn't really touch much on season 7, season 8, but I don't really like those two seasons that much. I like them, but I don't really like them because one of my favorite people in the entire Vampire Diaries universe is not there. Of course, we got Stefan and Damon, and got Bonnie and Caroline, but Elena to me was like the main focal point of the show with Damon and Stefan. You took her out, or / she left on her own accord. To me, that just hurt the show, in my opinion. Now on to the next season. Coming up next on the re-ranking video is going to be The Vampire Diaries, Season 5. Let's get into it. So now, Season 5 of The Vampire Diaries, this is not my favorite, but it has Elena, so... And this is the Anchor to the Other Side season. We have 4 chapters split up again, and it is the Doppelgangers chapter 1 through 7, and that's Questia and Silas. Silas is Stefan's, I believe, is Stefan's original doppelganger. It's been a long time since I've seen this season, and obviously a witch. The aftermath of the summer reveals more to the history between Silas, Questia, and Amara. The reasons for the doppelgangers are revealed. Oh, give me a second. As Silas's new plan to die and Questia's attempt to beat him, this chapter also deals with Damon and Elena finding Stefan and the aftermath of his escape from the quarry. Bonnie continues to get used to being a ghost, making Jeremy convince her friends that she's out of town. A human Catherine is on the run from Silas and comes across a vampire from her past that has been looking for Catherine for over 500 years. I believe that vampire is Catherine's daughter, as she gave up at birth. Chapter 2 in the 508 to 510 is the Augustine chapter. This chapter deals with the mystery of the Augustine Society, Wes's plan for vampires, and Damon's dark history as an Augustine vampire with his old friend Enzo. So this is where we meet Enzo, ladies and gentlemen. This chapter also deals with the aftermath of Stefan killing Silas and Catherine finding out she is dying of old age from Silas taking the cure from her body. Bonnie becomes used to being alive again, enjoying her time with Jeremy, but must come to grips with her painful situation with being the anchor to the other side. The Passenger is 511 through 515, and the main antagonists are Catherine, her daughter, Wes, Damon, and Enzo. This chapter focuses on the consequences of all the actions Catherine has had as she's on her deathbed. Once she finds her way to live on as a passenger in Elena's body, Catherine sets a plan in motion to take back all she thinks is rightfully hers, sending Damon off on a killing spree with his old buddy Enzo, which leads to its own tragic aftermath. Finally, Catherine, Elena, and Damon find themselves sharing a unique bond. Catherine continues to spend time with her daughter, Nadia, while throwing trouble into everybody's lives by trying to get Stefan back as she pretends to be Elena. Now, Chapter 4. This was one of the better chapters of this season in my mind. The chapter deals with the aftermath of Catherine's death and her infecting Elena with the Ripper virus. Stefan and Caroline try to find an antidote for both Elena and Damon and are surprised that they are helped by travelers who are now accompanied by Enzo. It is also revealed that the travelers have plans for their final pair of doppelgangers, that they will stop at nothing to make sure that Elena and Stefan will be the two remaining doppelgangers. At that same time, a war is brewing between the travelers and the Witches' Coven at Mystic Falls. Is poisoned to become a battlefield when Marcos reveals his plan to strip magic from Mystic Falls and the world, and leaving the witches beside the travelers powerless and exterminating the vampire species. Now, I like this, and I believe this is the season where we bring back multiple people from the other side. I think this is where we bring back Alaric and Caroline and all these other people. I forgot who was dead at that time because it's been a long time since I've seen this. When I was in the hospital, I just power watched the entire series and I got caught up. And I rewatched some too. I think it was like season 4, season 3. But it was something new because this season, Damon and Bonnie, they didn't make it at the end of the season, so they basically died, and they were stuck on the other side, and we were left wondering what's gonna happen. And it ends with Bonnie and Damon being stuck in oblivion, and I thought that was a good cliffhanger. All in all, this season I thought was really strong, but I like the other seasons better. Nina Dobrev, I love Nina Dobrev. I love her in this role. Now on to the next season. I just want to say Nina can play any part, and I will be there. Coming up next, we have The Vampire Diaries, Season 4. I'll tell you why right now. So Season 4 begins exactly where Season 3 left off. Elena wakes up and realizes she died in the accident that she was in. And she's in transition to be a vampire. And Season 4 is the first season to come to terms that we have 4 chapters instead of the annual 3. The first one is in transition of Elena becoming a vampire. And that's the main focus for episodes 1 and episodes 2. And we meet a couple new people during this 2-episode playthrough. Pastor Young and Connor Jordan are the 2 main antagonists for the first 2 episodes. And Elena eventually turns into a vampire, ladies and gentlemen. And then we go to chapter 2, and that goes 3 through 9, and that chapter deals with the new threat from Mystic Falls. A supernatural Connor known as Connor Jordan has arrived to get rid of the vampires and the hybrids, and brings with him 2 main things: a new origin, as he's one of the member of the 5, and also the key to a thing that nobody knew really existed: the cure for vampirism, which is hidden in his invisible Hunter's Mark tattoo. After Elena kills Connor, she is plagued by the Hunter's curse, because if you kill a hunter, you get haunted by them. But gets rescued as Jeremy kills a hybrid to activate his Hunter's Mark, officially joining the Five. Connor Jordan, Articus Shane, and Niklaus Michelson are the main antagonists. Chapter 3, the Silas chapter. Yes, this is Silas's first episode. Season, episode 10 through 15. The Silas is the one that has a cure. And this chapter deals with the origins of the first immortal Silas and the cure for vampirism. Jeremy tries to complete his Hunter's Mark to reveal the location of Silas and the cure, and the journey to retrieve them. This is only a tragedy. And the raising of Silas, Articus Shane, Niklaus, Cole, Catherine, and Ganya are all the antagonists. And Jeremy completes his by killing Cole, and that wipes out Cole's entire sideline, and that's enough to complete his mark. Chapter 4. This chapter deals with the aftermath of the confrontation on the island. After Jeremy's death, Elena's plans is to turn off humanity. Damien pleads for her to do that, and the consequences of Mystic Falls is in balance. Meanwhile, Silas, who is now awake, has followed the group back to Mystic Falls and is bent on accomplishing his ultimate goal to drop the veil to the other side, which would bring back every dead supernatural being over there, so he could take the cure and die and find peace in the afterlife with his one true love. Now, overall, I really like this season. This is one of my favorite seasons, and from here on, it was really hard to place these. Really hard to place them. Because you had the original vampires, you had Elena, you had Catherine, you had Jeremy, you had Bonnie, you had the Salvatore brothers. You also had the original family, if I didn't say them. And the final episode is them graduating high school. So from episode 5 on, they're officially adults. And I really like this season. It's one of my favorite seasons from a CW show. Now on to the next season. Coming up next, we have season 6 of the Vampire Diaries. Okay, so the Vampire Diaries season 6. It begins with Elena having a sense of hope after having passed a summer at Damon. Elena heads to Whitmore College with Caroline, but not knowing that Bonnie sacrificed her life to save Jeremy back in season 5. As Bonnie's friends fight to bring her back to life as the anchor to the other side, Stefan had a face-to-face with his doppelganger Silas, and the newly human Catherine struggled with her mortality and motherhood, and Damon's relationship with Elena was put to the ultimate test when Enzo, an old vampire friend from Damon's past, is revealed as he was the one alive looking for revenge, and Stefan and Caroline's friendship depends on how and they can stand up to the Travelers. Now this season is split into a few parts, 3 parts exactly. The Grieving chapter, season 1 through 7. This chapter follows the gang 4 months after Damon and Bonnie's death, and how their friends are trying to move on with their lives. Elena, Jeremy, and Stefan are all grieving. Elena and Enzo are trying to find a way to break the Traveler's anti-magic spell on Mystic Falls, along with trying to relocate Bonnie and Damon. Damon and Bonnie find themselves stuck in a prison world repeating the same day in 1994. And a mysterious inhabitant named Kai is there. Tyler and Alaric will also come to terms with their new status, while Matt has joined a militia group. And then we go to chapter 2 of this season, the Parker chapter. The Parker family and Kai's history is shown with some flashbacks. What Kai did to his family years ago Kai reveals has a plan to become the new leader of the Gemini Coven through something called the Merge, a ritual that makes a new leader of the Gemini Coven by merging the existence of the two twins from the Coven and increases the Winter's powers, which then takes an unexpected turn when Liv and Luke find their long-lost sister Jo and Alaric's relationship takes a leap forward. While Enzo uses Matt to try to ruin Stefan's life, Bonnie tries to find her way home from the prison world, and Jeremy makes a life-changing decision. And I believe this is the time frame where Jeremy leaves the show for a little while. I think he comes back like at the end. Chapter 3, the Salvatore chapter. This chapter, the main focus is the Salvatore brothers and their mother, Lily. We talked about Lily a little bit earlier. And her companions, the heretics, siphon witches, turned into vampires that can siphon their own vampirism as a source of magic. Lily is also desperate to find her heretics, and she'll do anything to reunite them. Caroline deals with the loss of her mother. So Caroline's mom dies in this season. However, in doing so, she makes the drastic decision as she drags Stefan down with her in her journey of her humanity being turned off. Elena will consider taking the cure, which leaves repercussions with Damon, who decides to take it with her. Alaric and Joe's wedding takes place here, but it turns fatal when Kai appears to enact his deadly plan of revenge that affects everybody. Lily, at the end, is reunited with her heretic family, and they become the main antagonists for the next season. Joe passes away in this episode, and the twins, Lizzie and Josie, from Legacies get transferred from Joe to Caroline using witch magic. Now, this season, I like this season. I thought that this season was a step in a good direction. It was okay. It has moments where I didn't really care about it. And this is also the last season that Elena is in, because she is put in something called the Sleeping Beauty spell. Yeah, because Nina Dobrev wanted to pursue other things. So they just put her in this Sleeping Beauty spell. That way, if she were to come back, they wouldn't have to do anything crazy. They can just say she woke up. So they tied her life to Bonnie's. And then later on, Bonnie, in the last episode, breaks that thing. And they can both live at the same time. Now on to the next episode. Before we hop into the next season, I just want to talk about this one a little more. I like this season, but the season kind of kills it for me that this is the last season that Elena's on in there. Elena is one of my favorite characters. I've said it multiple times, I love Nina Dobrev. And if she were to stay throughout the series, I think this season would be top notch. Because this season was good from top to bottom in my mind. Now, let's get to the next season. Coming in third place, we got The Vampire Diaries, season number 1. Now, part of me wanted to maybe swap this with 2, but 1, 2, and 3, in my mind, are the perfect seasons from top to bottom. Because you have this young cast, you have Nina Dobrev, Paul Wesley, Ian Somerhalder, Candace, Matt Davis, Kat Graham, Michael. You have this group of people that were so good at such a young age during this time frame. I know it's a young age, but they weren't really that young. I believe. I think they were in their late 20s. But that's still young. And this season, for me, I was fixed. Because I watched this season from top to bottom in 3 days. When I was in the hospital. Season 1 and 2 I watched all the way through to get ready for season 3. Because I was in the hospital for maybe a week and a half. And I fell in love. And I fell in love with Nina Dobrev. I know I keep saying that. But the chapters in this season was the first one was the Vicky chapter after the return of Damon and his shady influence over the events of the town, particularly Vicky Donovan and turning her into a vampire. Stefan wants to get to know Elena Gilbert, aka Nina, who looks like the identical twin of a vampire him and his brother loved in 1864 named Catherine. As Damon wreaks havoc over the town, he turns Vicky into a vampire, like I said earlier. She's about to kill Jeremy. Stefan stakes her in front of them. Damon offers to compel away the memories of Vicky's death from Jeremy, which gives Stefan hope for his brother. And we fast forward to chapter 2, and that's the Tomb Vampires. This chapter deals with the aftermath of Vicky's death and the revelation that Damon's master plan is opening the tomb of the failed church to get Catherine, despite Annabelle, the daughter of Pearl. And Annabelle, the person that plays Annabelle, she is from The Flash, and that's another actress that I adore. She is amazing. Mesli Joe, I think that's how you say her name. I love her. And she plans to open the tomb as well to get her mom. Damon succeeds with Stephanie, Elena, and Bonnie and Grams. Help to get in and out of the tomb before the barriers went back up. Shocked that Catherine was never in the tomb, Damon is heartbroken as Graham dies from using too much of the power for the spell, which brings down a full barrier and letting the tomb vampires escape. And now, chapter 3 is the lineage. This chapter deals with the aftermath of opening the tomb, and the tomb vampires are released, and everybody in town that is like a legacy member from 1864 from back in the day is basically in trouble. We learn that John Gilbert, Uncle John, we get like little teases that he is Elena's father. And then we are about to be introduced to, I think Rick comes in at the end. It's been a while. I'm going to rewatch these as well. But the season ends with Elena, who we think is Elena, but it's Catherine, cuts off the Gilbert ring, stabs John. As Elena walks in the house, it fades to black. Now, season 1, this was a tremendous season to start off with. They did an amazing job from top to bottom. I love it. And the next 2 seasons, one of the best antagonists is on his way, and I cannot wait to talk about that some more. But for me, the Wesley and Summerhold dynamic and Nina Dobrev were enough to get me to watch these episodes. Now on to the next episode. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, coming in second place is The Vampire Diaries, Season 2. So Season 2 of The Vampire Diaries picks up right after the events of Season 1, where Catherine returns and cuts off John's fingers. She also kills Caroline, turns Caroline into a vampire. And then we learn that the Lockwood family, aka Tyler and his dad, at least the men, have the werewolf gene. And Tyler's uncle comes into town because he's trying to help Catherine. And Tyler doesn't trigger his curse yet, but he does in this season. Chapter 1 is the Catherine chapter. It deals with the aftermath of the destruction of the tomb vampires. And Catherine's return, Caroline's new life as a vampire, and the mystery surrounding the Lockwoods. Chapter 2 is a werewolf curse. This is all about Tyler's transformation into a wolf, and the appearances of the original vampires, as well as an importance because of the curse of the sun and the moon. Because Niklaus wants to be able to turn on command. He wants to be a hybrid, like a full-on hybrid. And this is where we meet Elijah and Jules. Jules is gonna play into importance later on in the season, and she is played by, I think, no, she's not. She looks like the actress from Teen Wolf, but it's not her. And season 2, chapter 3 is the Klaus Curse chapter, and this deals with the aftermath of Elijah's death. He just gets like daggered, I believe. It's been a while. And the release of Catherine in the Tomb. It also deals with the arrival of the Klaus and concentrates solely on the events surrounding the curse. And the main antagonists, of course, are Klaus and Catherine. And to break the sun and the moon curse, he has to kill a newborn vampire, which is Jenna, because she dies in this season. Klaus also has to kill a werewolf, and that werewolf is going to be Jules, and drink the blood of the doppelganger. That doppelganger being Elena, because her blood's not really that tainted. Klaus breaks the curse, and then we get set up for season 3, and season 3 is obviously my favorite season. All in all, season 2 I think is a tremendous sequel to season 1. Klaus is one of the best villains. We get more Nina Dobrev as Catherine and as Elena. We get to see Caroline's journey, because Caroline was one of the worst characters that we saw in season 1, and seeing what she's came from then to now what she is in Legacies. I know she hasn't really been in Legacies. It's tremendous overall, in my mind. I love it. Season 2 is one of my favorite seasons, and it was one of the seasons that I binged. And coming in at the best season, in my personal opinion, is The Vampire Diaries, Season 3. Now, my favorite season, Season 3 of The Vampire Diaries. This is the Vampire Diaries that introduces the original family officially. The original family arrives in Season 3. And I was ecstatic because you have a pretty good cast. You have the person that I adore with all my heart, Nina Dobrev. You have Paul Wesley. You have Ian Somerhalder. You have Stephen R. McQueen, Kat Graham, Candace. You have Zach, Michael Trevano, Joseph Morgan, Matt Davis, and then supporting cast: Claire Holt, Susan Walter. Susan Walter is basically the mother of a bunch of Supernatural and special characters. She's on the Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf, and she's also in The Flash. Troy DeVito, Melcy Zhao is back in there. Daniel Gillis. Just a star-studded cast in this season. This season opens the door to learn that Klaus of the original's family of vampires and his motives for wanting Stefan on his side are finally revealed. Stefan sinks deeper into the dark side. Damon and Elena struggle with the guilt of their growing bond, even as they work together to bring Stefan back. Home. The ghosts from Jeremy's past have a powerful message that they're trying to deliver to him, not to mention the impact that they're having on his relationship with Bonnie. As Caroline and Tyler grow closer, a war erupts between their families. Now, that is perfect, in my mind, a perfect season summary. We start off with Elena's birthday. And chapter 1 is The Ghost, 1 through 7. This chapter deals with events from Jeremy's new ability to see ghosts, the mystery surrounding the return of Anna and Vicky to the world of the living. It also deals with Klaus's plan to create more hybrids, and he needs Elena for that, as well as reliving his backstory to his new wingman Stefan, as well why he wants Stefan on his side. The original chapter. This chapter deals with the truth surrounding the creation of vampires in the form of the originals, why they were created. We get a little tease. We find out more about that in the originals, and I will cover the originals on their own separate ranking later on. And then Legacies will get their own separate rating. It revolves into a conflict between Klaus and Stefan after the latter steals the coffins of the originals and uses them in his crusade to destroy Klaus. It also sees the arrival and death of the one responsible for their creation of vampires, the Klaus stepfather, Michael, and the father to the rest of the original vampires. Also, the vampires and humans alike are baffled when a killing spree begins against the Founders Council members, scaring the others into thinking that there is a serial killer in Mystic Falls. That's 8 through 15. And 16 through 22 is the Bloodline chapter. This chapter starts with the development of Esther's plot to destroy her family. Elijah and the rest of the family are not willing to just die, and they use Elena to force a plan with the help of Stefan and Damon in their power struggle against their mother. Lastly, they learn that once you kill an original, you kill that entire bloodline of vampires, which is a big red flag, because now you got to figure out who is everybody related to. Like, who's the sire of Damon, Stefan, and Caroline, and so on and so forth. And that's like a big thing, and we later find out who's the sire line of our main characters. It continues the storyline of the mysterious killer who seems hell-bent on killing the council members who protect the secret of vampires in Mystic Falls, as Alaric is revealed to be the killer due to overusing the Gilbert ring. The Gilbert ring, if you die and you have it on, you come back to life. And that's like messing with him. Which is causes him to have a split personality. Esther makes him into an enhanced original vampire with one last attempt with White Oak to stake and kill her kids. After appearing to kill Klaus, Rebecca kills Elena, as Alaric's life was bound to Elena's killing him. However, Elena died with vampire blood in her system, and she becomes a vampire, and that's the big cliffhanger for season number 4. Now, in my mind, this was the perfect season, because I loved them bringing in the original family and the original vampires as their big bads. More Nina Dobrev, Claire Holt, I'm all for it. And the brother dynamic with Damon and Stefan, amazing. Joseph Morgan is always going to be one of the best protagonists in my mind. I love Joseph Morgan as Nick Klaus. I thought that was tremendous casting. Same with the guy that they got to cast to play Elijah. Tremendous casting. I'll say that again. And this is all around a perfect season in my mind. I love going back and rewatching the season again and again and again and again and again. Because Elena looks so beautiful in some of the dresses she wears. I know I'm sounding like a Elena diehard, but Elena's my number one. go to in this series, the Vampire Diaries series. She's still number one out of everybody, but I'll get to who's up there with her when we get to the originals and legacies. I want to thank you guys for watching this re-ranking slash first time ranking video of the Vampire Diaries. I know I did all of them together, but now I'm going to do them all separately because the legacies might be coming to an end and I want to rank all the seasons of legacies, and it only felt right to do the Vampire Diaries as well. Up next, I'm going to be doing the originals, so the Vampire Diaries and the originals will be coming out at the same time, and when Legacies eventually ends, I'll be doing Legacies, all the seasons of Legacies. Please be sure to like and subscribe, tap the little bell on that YouTube app so you never miss an upload, and I'll see you guys on the next one.